sorority girls at Duke, my mother, and Big Sean all love the same thing I made. I think I might be onto something. Cooler Than Me was a song I wrote. Basically, it's about feeling left out. That's how I felt my whole life. I never felt like I belonged. And I put it online. It was MySpace at the time.
Yeah.
I didn't think that much of it. And he said, Mike, we were at a party last night, which I was not at, because when other kids would go out to the parties, the dorms were quiet and I could record. So I was not at these parties. He said, we were at the party last night and they played your song and everyone knew the words.
I had chills, by the way, as you're telling me the story now.
Depression is not some mysterious disease. It was a habit, and I changed the fucking habit. This is not a peer-reviewed, published study.
Duke Medical School.
Yeah, this is the Mike Posner school of trying to make my freaking life better. Depression has a hard time surviving under 40 degrees. My dreams were to go to college and hopefully get a job and make money. Compare that to my real life. Walked across a continent, climbed the tallest mountain on earth, written 6 platinum songs, nominated for Grammys, and beyond all that, happy. I'm a unicorn. I have fame, but I have fulfillment.
I got you all figured out. You need everyone's eyes.
Welcome to In Search of Excellence, where we meet entrepreneurs, CEOs, entertainers, athletes, motivational speakers, and trailblazers of excellence with incredible stories from all walks of life. My name is Randall Kaplan. I'm a serial entrepreneur, venture capitalist, and the host of In Search of Excellence, which I started to motivate and inspire us to achieve excellence in all areas of our lives. My guest today is the incredible Mike Posner. Mike is a singer, songwriter, record producer, and poet. He's released 4 albums and is best known for his hit songs Cooler Than Me, which he wrote as a sophomore in college, and is also known for his smash hit I Took a Pill in Ibiza, which is one of my favorite songs of all times, and which has 1.9 billion streams on Spotify. He's written songs for Justin Bieber, Maroon 5, Nick Jonas, Snoop, and many others, and has been nominated for a Grammy and various MTV Video Music Awards, and is the author of the poetry book Teardrops and Balloons. He's also the only Grammy Award-nominated musician to walk across the United States on foot. Mike, it's a true pleasure to have you on my show. Thanks so much for being here. Welcome to In Search of Excellence.
To meet you. Thank you.
So you're born in the great city of Detroit. Your dad, John, was a well-respected criminal defense lawyer. Your mom was a pharmacist.
Yeah.
Tell us what influence they had on your life and what was the single biggest lesson they taught you when you were a young kid?
Well, the number one thing that comes to mind from Dad is now it comes like this because it's the mission of our company now. He used to always say to me, Mike, there's 2 H's in life, health and happiness. So our mission and everything we do at Team Mike Posner is to help people be healthier and happier, and that's it. And my mom, I can't boil her influence on me down to a soundbite, but she instilled in me a real fire. My mom is a fighter. She is a Detroit hard rock. She worked for everything she had in her life, and to this day she inspires me, and that's where my fire comes from. And there's a lot of it. So yeah, my mom is my heart to this day.
When you were 8 years old, you started making music. When you were 10 years old, you started rapping. I had Rodney Jerkins on my show, one of the biggest producers.
Yeah,
of all
I know
time.
Rodney.
And
Yeah,
so,
you don't have to tell me who Rodney is.
Well, for those people who don't know, Rodney Jerkins, one of the biggest movie genius producers of all time. So he was in Indiana with his aunt at a shopping mall when he heard Michael Jackson come on the radio. And he said to himself, I want to make music for that guy one day. And by the age of 21, he was producing Michael Jackson's records.
Yeah.
So what was the inspiration for you when you were 8 years old or 10-year-olds that said, hey, I'm Mike Posner, I'm going to start making music?
I can remember hanging with my buddies, Aaron Webster and Ronnie Posey. Yeah. Ronnie's no longer with us, so Ronnie, rest in peace. And we're 8 or 9 years old, and we're in the basement one night, just that's where our parents would go. In Michigan, there's basements, right?
Yeah.
Where are you from?
Michigan. We're going to get into that.
Okay,
Detroit.
so there's basements in the
Southfield,
homes there.
baby.
There's no basements in California, right? but in Michigan, there's basements, right? So our parents would throw us down there. You know, we're in this musty basement, so we don't drive them crazy. And Ronnie, rest his soul, he always had like a scheme to get into. And that night it was hip hop. And so we said, we're going to try freestyling tonight. And we put on we found CDs of just music that had no words on it. And we just try rapping to it. And as I spit and stumble over, you know, cliches and words that I was trying to rhyme with Mike, you know, something just clicked in my brain. My synapses started to fire. And the end of that night, I knew I was never going to stop doing that. And I haven't since.
And that was when you were 10 years old. Yeah,
roughly. I don't know exactly. 8, 9, 10. I think I'd written a few raps before that or something, but that was the night where I knew I'm always going to do this the rest of my life. I didn't know it could be my job, but I knew I was going to do it the rest of my life.
Right. So various points in our life, especially when we're younger, we do things maybe we're not supposed to do. You know, maybe you'd take the dad's car, mom's car for a spin. We used to go on Maple Road and Oak, and we would just do donuts on people's lawns when we were stupid, silly kids. Tell us about going on your mom's computer and stealing songs on the net and kind of how that also helped you in your career.
Yeah, so we had this old computer and
Apple IIe.
It's old now. It was new then.
was it a Mac? Was it Apple?
No, how far back? Gateway.
A Gateway.
Gateway 2000.
Gateway 2000.
Yeah, it was a Gateway. I think we had a Gateway. And I mean, I do a lot of things on that computer. One of the things I did, like you said, I installed Napster, and you know, you could type in X, Y, and Z song, but put instrumental after, and so you'd get back these tracks without the words, and I would try to rap and write my own songs to them. So that was one of the things I was up to on that computer. The other thing, surprisingly, wasn't porn. You know, I think the dial-up was too small for my 13-year-old, but I would write actual like raps on Microsoft Word, and then I was deathly afraid of my parents finding them. So I made a folder that say like math second semester, or you know, language arts, like it was one of my classes, and I would save all these documents in there, my raps, my hip hop, and they were really, there was a reason I didn't want anyone to see them. They were really honest, you know, and I try to still write from that point to this day.
So your parents didn't know that you were making these rap songs and you were just doing it. Were you writing them or singing them, or you made the beats? Did you record any of these?
At first I was just writing raps over other people's beats and like the instrumentals I'd find, and I wasn't recording them. Then I figured out with really archaic software, I could record on this bad mic that came with the computer. And then eventually I started making beats. That came a little later, like age 13. I allocated some bar mitzvah money to get a little cheap keyboard from Best Buy, and it was off to the races.
That's awesome. I took $500 of my bar mitzvah money, and I made T-shirts in college. That was really my first.
So you're like another Jewish guy from Michigan, man.
Yeah.
Like what's going on here?
From a Jewish guy from Michigan, but you know, I always wanted to have my own business. I always wanted to sell something, and I was going to create something. But I took $500 of my bar mitzvah money. There was no Google or no net then, so you couldn't go on and just say, "Hey, give me 100 T-shirts." You had to go through the yellow pages and call up, "Hey, I need some T-shirts. What do they cost? Are they cotton? You know, you want the 100% cotton, polyester." And I bought these T-shirts for $5 each, and I would sell the short sleeve for $12. And of course, I copied the Nike logo and the font. Just do it. And when Michigan ran to the Final Four, and I know you're a Duke guy.
Yeah. I like Michigan too, though. That's where my dad went.
Yeah. So it said road to the Final Four. So I would go to every dorm at Michigan. I think there were 14 dorms. I went in every hallway. I sold these T-shirts door to door. I got kicked out of every hallway. But I learned the art of cold calling, and it was really, really cool for me, because I think 100% of what we do in business and even in our personal life is selling ourselves.
Yeah.
You got to sell a t-shirt, you got to face rejection. We're going to talk about all the challenges that you've been through in your life, but a lot of it's about rejection and just powering through challenges that we all have.
Absolutely. That's
So-
a wonderful story.
So you went to
hope
grow.
the statute of limitations is up on that copyright infringement.
Exactly. To all the people at Nike.
He's sorry.
This is like 1990 I graduated, so I made these shirts in 1986. I think we're well past the statute of limitations.
Good.
But thank you, Nike, for the genius of the Just Do It slogan, which is one of the best slogans of all time.
For sure.
So I went to Country Day. You went to
Okay.
Groves.
Yep.
I ran cross country. Your best time
Stop.
was 18:01 for the
Yeah.
5K.
Man, how do you know all this stuff? It's
My
creepy.
best time. My best time.
Don't say 1801. Dude. I'm
No,
gonna leave.
it was like 22 point something. And the only reason I ran cross country because there's a girl named Marcy Thompson. If you're listening, Marcy, hello. And if you're not, I'm going to send you the show. But I thought, gosh, when I went to Country Day, I went to Covington
Yeah.
in 8th grade. And then I
Yeah.
said, I want something different. As a Jewish kid, there were only 3 Jews in my class. And people were not really Jewish friendly. And I was a good student. So I asked my parents, can I go to Country Day? And I went to Country Day. And the corporate school saying was mens sano and corpus sano, sound mind and sound body. And they made you play 2 sports. So I ran cross country thinking, all right, I'm going to hang out with Marcy a little bit. But when I got to school, I was cool for about 2 weeks. And then I wasn't cool, but I took Marcy to the freshman dance. She was the prettiest girl in class.
Mm.
And then I never had another date with her again in
Well-
high school. 10-year reunion was a different thing.
Randall, I just want to congratulate you for being the only guy ever to get a girl by doing cross country.
By the way, it failed. I didn't get her.
It worked for a
failed.
little while.
No,
You got one dance.
It was
Come on, we
before.
got to take our wins,
It was
man.
before. No. It took 10 years because our 10-year high school reunion, we reunited and we had a nice time together and we became good friends. So
okay.
took 10 years to
Got
get that
it.
date.
Got it.
But so you're in high school. I want you to talk to us about your basketball coach and you playing basketball. And then you said you were not very happy, depressed, hated school, hated your teachers, hated yourself. When did that start? And when did you really say to yourself, I'm depressed?
High school. Probably sophomore year. I remember we were assigned Catcher in the Rye, that book. And I was reading this book sophomore year, and I can remember being afraid to turn the next page because I felt like I was reading my own thoughts. This was exactly how I felt, to the point where it was creepy. And so I think I realized, then like, hey, this guy in this book ain't so happy, and this is me. This is me. You mentioned basketball. Basketball was social capital where I grew up. So if you were good at basketball, you were cool. So I desperately wanted to be cool, and that meant I desperately wanted to be good at basketball. And there's only one problem with that. One was maybe a couple problems.
Right.
One, I was short, Jewish, white, and I wasn't very good at basketball. So
It's a problem.
few roadblocks. Despite practicing really hard, and I made the JV team, and I remember I built up all this courage, and I asked the coach at some point in a meeting between just him and I said, Coach, why don't you ever play me in the games? And he just really honestly said, because you're not good enough. And that was like all I needed to hear. That lit a fire in my butt. That didn't manifest in basketball, as we know, as my story turned out, but in music. And I just sort of lived my life for the next 15 years going, I'm going to show you I'm good enough. And that allowed me to accomplish a lot, but it was also Achilles' heel at times in my life. There's some situations where showing other people you're better than them is not the best attitude and frame to have.
We'll talk about that
Yeah.
a little later in my show. I've been there a couple times. You think it's great, like you've done great, and then there's downside to your success. And
Absolutely.
I'm looking forward to talking about it. Mental health was not really a thing back then.
Mm-hmm.
You know, today it's at the forefront. People talk about mental health all the time. You hear about these suicides on a regular basis of highly functioning people who you would never suspect to be depressed. A Stanford goalie, soccer player, just as one generic description of someone you think did not have mental health problems, never told people about our mental health problems before. Did you tell your parents at that point, hey, mom, dad, I'm depressed? And did you see a therapist? Did they give you medication, or were you kind of in the closet with it?
In the closet fully. It was like this big secret. I don't know how well I hid the secret. And then I made an album about it. So it was like that I sold out of the trunk of my car. We talk about entrepreneurial slanging of CDs senior year. So pretty much that whole album was about that. But I would try to hide it as much as I could, you know. And for anyone that's felt that way, it's exhausting.
Yeah.
Because you're putting all this energy into playing the part of being a happy version of yourself, which you're not. That being said, you know, like I always sort of tense up when I hear like mental health and mental wellness and all these kind of buzzwords nowadays, because what I don't believe is that in most cases, I don't think depression is like this disease that you magically end up with and you're stuck with for life. I believe, in my case at least, it was a habit. And I use that word intentionally. It was a habit. It was a certain pattern of thoughts that I chose to think over and over again that resulted in a certain set of emotional states that I chose to dwell in over and over again. It was a way I held my body, slouch. It was a way I breathed. And the confluence of these factors, the thought patterns, the emotional states, the posture, the breathing, that's depression. It's not like in my DNA, you know, it's a habit. And when I took ownership of that, you know, this is something I'm doing to myself, then I was able to say, hey, I can choose to do something else. So you'll notice me even, you may have noticed already, I'm constantly going that as I sit here.
I'm
putting my shoulders back.
Yeah.
I'm constantly breathing. And every morning I wake up, if you go on my Instagram, people laugh at me, but it has worked better than any pill. I run or I get in cold water and I remind myself who I actually am. I say, I am joy, I am faith, I am love, I am grace, I am gratitude. And I'm running up a hill, or I'm in a 39-degree ice bath going, I am joy, I am faith. And this is the new thought pattern. And this creates a new emotional pattern in my body. And with these new habits, I'm a different person. And so I don't, in my case at least, depression is not some mysterious disease. It was a habit, and I changed the fucking habit.
Right. So,
and I ain't going back.
What's your advice to all the people listening today who have depression? They're untreated. They're afraid to talk to their friends or family about it.
I think getting an ice bath.
To treat depression.
Oh yeah.
You're 18 years old.
Hey, listen. This is not a peer reviewed published study.
Right.
But in
Duke Medical School.
Yeah, this is the Mike Posner school of trying to make my freaking life better. Depression has a hard time surviving under 40 degrees because it gets you out of your freaking head. Depression lives up here, you know. And what are we thinking? We're thinking about ourselves, right? It's obsessive, self-centered thinking of how we're wronged, or we're not understood, or something's wrong with me. We get in these spirals. It happens all the time. So I'm not saying like I never have a bad mood or I never have a depressed thought or a depressed mood, but I would never put the word depressed after I am as an identity. No. I am joy. I am faith. I'm love. So I would say, change your story, get in cold water, stand up straight, breathe deeply, and start thinking some positive thoughts. And at first, those thoughts will feel like jokes. You'll think, Posner's stupid, man. Like, this feels silly. But if you keep doing it, and if you couple those things together, they start to get powerful, right? If you couple a state change, a physical state change, like getting in cold water or exercising, with saying these new thoughts out loud, I am joy, I am faith, I'm love, whatever it's the story you want to write, it becomes powerful. And that over time, not in a day, not in 2 days, but quicker than you might think, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you start to believe yourself. You start to believe yourself. What if I am joy? And what a lot of us, I'm not going to sit here and say what my situation is the same as everybody else's. But for a lot of people, because I was one of them, the other thing depression is, beyond being a habit, is an excuse. It's a catch-all excuse. Because as long as I'm depressed, I got an excuse for not really honoring my responsibilities as a friend, as a son, as a human being, as a member of my community, and for living up to who deep down, you know you really are. You know deep down that you are a badass motherfucker. You're here to do great things. You're here to live a joyous life. You're here to make an impact on other people. The only problem is with that, you got to actually move. You got to actually take a risk. You got to actually put yourself in situations where it might not work out. And as long as I was depressed, I got an excuse to not do any of that. And so it's like, this isn't the path for the faint of heart. This is the path, like what I'm saying is the path you go on if you want to have an incredible life, that you take out of the teeth of this story of depression and ends up in happiness and joy and magic and abundance and adventure in a life bigger than your dreams even were. That's my real life now. So like, I don't say this as a judgment to others. I say this as an invitation, because we're talking about when I'm 15. When I was 15, my dreams were to like go to college and just like hopefully get a job, make money. Compare that to my real life, which you talked a little bit about the intro. Walked across a continent, climbed the tallest mountain on earth, written 6 platinum songs, nominated for Grammys, and beyond all that, happy. I'm a unicorn. Like, I have fame, but I have fulfillment. So my real life is bigger than my dreams were. It's more magical. So I'm just trying to share. I'm here to share the tools I use to navigate that. I made a lot of mistakes along the way too, and I'm happy to share those as well, so people don't have to fall in the same pit holes. But these are some of the ways I've changed my life. And when I say change my life, like I got a cool rap sheet. I get it. That's why I get to do cool interviews like this. But the thing that's not on my Wikipedia is how I've transitioned from being this kid, 15 years old, who was just exhausted every day from trying to pretend I was happy when I wasn't, to this 36-year-old man who loves his life and loves life.
I love all of that. I want to go back a little bit, or move forward from when you were 15 to 18, made your first record. You sold out of the back of your car. You made $1,700.
I think it was like $700.
$700?
Oh, maybe net. Gross
okay.
$1,700.
Okay, gross $1,700. So were you selling this in the Grove's parking lot? And then how good was it? Do you remember the first time someone actually bought your album? How good was that feeling?
I was selling that. Yeah. I had an 88 Volvo that my aunt passed down to me.
Safe car.
Yeah. And I was definitely selling it right out of the trunk of the car.
At Groves or?
At Groves. Yeah. And I don't remember the first sale I ever made, but it felt good. I remember having that. I remember having the $700 and going, this is cool, man. To be getting money, like making $700 a lot for 18-year-old kid.
A lot.
Right? To get $700 from doing something that I would do anyways, right? That I would probably even pay to do because I love to make music. That was freaking cool. That was freaking cool. And I've always made money doing music, you know, from that point on. And there's something about, there's a lesson in there somewhere about just declaring your own worth. There were 5 other rappers in my school.
Which, by the way, for those people who don't know, is really an upper middle class to wealthy school. I mean, I know you guys didn't have, you know, there was a spectrum there. I mean, I went to Country Day down the street. That was very privileged. Yeah. Right. And we would hang out at Groves, especially for the girls, because my class was 93 kids, and that's is basically 45 girls, and Groves had a much wider variety of people to meet.
The only one.
Yeah. We'd hang out with the big boy on Telegraph and all that, but
so yeah, the school was great. It was pretty diverse, actually. You're right. There were some very wealthy families in my school, but there were also some very poor families in our school. There's a trailer park in our district. So it was really diverse, so both racially and socioeconomically. So, but the point is, there's 5 other rappers in my school, but I didn't look at myself as one of them. I looked at myself as special. I'm the one. And I can remember, you've seen 8 Mile, rap battles.
Yeah. I mean, not only have I seen it in the movies, but we did some dumb shit when I was at Country Day.
Yeah.
So we'd drive down to Detroit, 8 Mile, and we'd go buy liquor down there. We'd buy some beer, Bartles and James, which is no longer around. It's kind of like a Truly today, wine spritzer. And we go down, we buy Colt 45s and Busch beer and Stroh's, which at the time was the biggest Detroit brewery. So I've been to 8 Mile. I've seen the movie, obviously. I love it. I'm from Detroit. Love the rap. I mean, I love the whole thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've seen the movie, and I've been to 8 Mile more times than I would ever want my kids to go there.
Right. So there's a lesson here in declaring your value. So it's like I said, there's 5 rappers in my school, and we would have rap battles. But there were some kids that I wouldn't even battle them if I didn't think they were good enough to battle me. I always placed a value on myself. When I got to Duke, where I went to college, the problem when you start your music career, from starting a business, is you see yourself as a star. But everyone else sees you as the kid in the dorm next door. So you have to do things to differentiate yourself. Like there were certain gigs where I would get offered to be paid a couple $100s to play at a frat party or something like this. I say no. I play at Duke once a year and I throw the show. Maybe twice a year. I create scarcity around myself, right? I continue that in my career, in Detroit, when my career started to take off. The radio stations, they all want you to do their show, right? And they play your song on the radio. So they say, hey, this is the stations in Detroit. Say, hey, we got our Christmas show or whatever. We want you to come. I say, no, I play in Detroit once, maybe twice a year. It's my hometown. Scarcity. I'm not a college artist. I'm not a high school band. I'm me. I'm Mike Posner. And the first person to see Mike Posner was Mike Posner. You know what I mean? And so you have to you see yourself as as what you're going to become, but you got to help other people to see you that way. And one of the ways I did that was just always declaring my value. Yeah.
Excuse me.
You're good.
I think today people are questioning the value of college education.
Yeah.
And every day you read
rightfully
something.
so.
I mean, rightfully. I mean, my son today is a sophomore in college, and he's, and Dad, why am I here? And he's cussing, Dad, why the fuck am I here? These professors, if they could get a job in the real world, he's got a professor from Google who tells him, right, make $800,000 a year, and he can't teach, and he does have a job in the real world. And when we read the stats today, the average college graduate has $34,000 in student debt. It takes 21 years to pay that off. First year plumber today makes $80,000. The Wall Street Journal just came out with a ranking of the schools that pay the best first year salaries. And we're talking about Harvard, Stanford, Duke, Michigan, and they're in the mid 40s. So what's your advice to everybody out there who has a talent? You got into Duke, went to Duke for part, and we're going to talk about what happened there in a second. So I don't want to jump the gun, but what's your advice to all the parents out there and all the students out there, really, starting with the students? Should we go to college if you have a passion to do something else? And what's the value of a college education today?
I think first of all, there's no one blanket answer what every person should do with their life. I think you got to look at what lights you up. And this is a really hard conversation for someone who's 17, 18 years old. They start going, what do I want to do with the rest of my life? It's probably the wrong question. The right question might look something like, what excites me right now? What am I interested in right now? And I think you go down that path. And listen, my buddy Big Sean, we're both the same age. He had a full ride to Michigan State, and I was getting ready to go to Duke. He didn't go, and he just focused on music. And it's worked out just fine for him.
Yeah.
And I went to Duke, and it took me a year or two while I was there to, I thought I was going to get a business degree or something, but while I'm in class, I'm writing songs in the margins of my notebook, and it turned out the things I'm writing in the margins of the notebook were actually the thing that became my career, and the notes in the middle of the page, which I thought was going to be my career, turned out to be things I didn't so much use. So I would be really reticent to just offer a prescription for any human being. I think you got to look at what lights you up, what you're passionate in, and tug on go down the rabbit hole of your own inspiration. And for some people that might involve going to get a 4-year degree, and for a lot of people it might not. This is the thing. If you could become excellent in whatever the thing is that you're, right? That's the name of your podcast.
In Search
right?
of Excellence.
Yeah. If you could become excellent in whatever your passion is, you're gonna have some career options. But then the question is, can you become excellent in something you're not really interested in? Probably not. So let's start with the thing you're interested in. And then I would just become as excellent as you can in that thing. Go learn from the best in the world at that thing. And if that person's at a university, man, maybe you want to go there. If not, maybe you don't, And so that's it. I'll never be broke because I can pick up a guitar and I can make you feel something. Even if I have everything messed up, like I know how to do that. And so that would be my advice.
I think,
and for parents, I would say, you asked about kids and parents. One is like, okay, when you're a kid, the time to chase after your passion is now. I'd meet kids on the walk across America. They go, I've always wanted to do this, but I got to get a good job first and make some money. I go, dude, what are you talking about? Like, you're 18. This is the time. This is the time. So the time to like take a risk and fail is now, is now. For parents, you got to be willing to allow your kids to live in a world and thrive in a world, be excellent in a world that looks different than the one you grew up in. And them being excellent might involve them taking a different path, And so faith,
I believe education is the greatest investment we can make in ourselves. And I
Huge.
do, and I do believe college is not for a lot of people. But even people like my son, who's an entrepreneur, he was flipping shoes when he was younger. He got me into dunks, and I'm a sneakerhead of the highest order. It's a very expensive habit, but it's something I love. But he was saying, for a while, Dad, I'm not going to college. And I said, you're going to college? He said, no, I'm not. I'm going to be 18 and you can't make me. So I said, hey, Charlie, where are you going to live? And ultimately, he came to the conclusion that he should go to college and he came to this conclusion on his own for the social component and moving away from home. And not all people go to college will move away from home. Obviously, that's expensive. But I do think the social connections and the social maturity you gain from graduating high school and living apart from home, if you can, is invaluable. It's the experience, it's the growth, it's the maturity, and then it's the connections you make. Duke has alumni all over the world, right? If you were to reach out to someone on LinkedIn or call someone and say, yeah, I graduated Duke, they'd have a propensity to talk to you. At Michigan has the largest alumni body in the world, greatest school on earth. I don't know what was wrong with your judgment, not going to the University of Michigan, going to Duke. But I think it's very, very important. And I think there's a lot of reasons, not only to learn, but more of intangible reasons for the value of our education.
Yeah, I think you're right. There's a flip side to that, at least in my case, or I can remember we were like heathens, man. The amount we were drinking and the culture of womanizing. I mean, it was pretty out of control in hindsight. Some of the culture there. So I made some incredible friends, but we were up to some pretty nasty behavior at the same time. So,
many of us were.
Yeah, it's shades of gray. It's not black and white, but yeah. There's some intangible benefits to college.
So you get into Duke, great school. Must have been great test taker. Must have been a very good student. Tell us. Your parents didn't want you hanging around after you graduated. So tell us about the internship you got at the radio station in Detroit. What station was it, by the way? Because in my research, I couldn't find the actual name of the station. And then tell us about this guy who was dressing like a millionaire and how that friendship later changed your life.
Yeah, so I got an internship at the station was called Hot 102.7. Okay. I don't think it I think it's been rebranded or bought or something since then. It's not still a station. But it was a hip hop station. And yeah, my mom said, you got a couple months here this summer before you're going to school, you're going to work, you're not exactly. So I got that internship and I went and through my coworker, I met a guy named Sean who, as you said, was dressed like a millionaire. And the word on the street was Sean knew Kanye West.
Well, what does that mean, by the way? I mean, dressed like a millionaire. I mean, he's 18. He's an intern. So is he?
He was.
He can't have the money.
His friend was an intern. Yeah, I don't know, man.
He can't have money for real change. I mean, is he wearing fake drip there or what?
I don't know.
He just looked like a millionaire. Just
I don't think
picture.
It was fake. I don't know what he had done to procure the outfits that he had. Maybe we get him on your podcast.
Okay. Actually, would love to have Big Sean on my show.
He'd be a good guest, actually. He's an incredible guy. And yeah, he was like this lifeline out of Detroit. He had this connection to Kanye West, which was a new connection for him, but he was like a way to a different life. Everyone I knew was sort of stuck in the mediocrity of suburban molasses. And I thought I was doomed to that kind of existence. I was desperate for a way to add color to my life, add excitement, add glory, and to just get out. And he was that way out. He had a connection that looked like a way out to me.
When he told you he had this thing with Kanye, did you believe him? Or were you like, come on, man?
Yeah. I believed them. And they had like, it's so funny. Like this back in the day before the iPhone had really, I don't think the iPhone was out yet. So they had like actual like pictures that they had developed. Like he was at like a party with Kanye and stuff. And I saw him and he had met Kanye at the radio station where I worked. And so everyone knew the story, of him meeting Kanye. And I believed him. Yeah. And he didn't get a record deal from Kanye right away. I went to college at Duke, like I said, and then Kanye told Sean, don't go to college. You're going to be a rapper. So Sean didn't take his scholarship at Michigan State, and he just worked. And it took about a year or two of courtship between Kanye and Sean. But I remember the day I was on the phone, walking on West Campus, talking to Sean, and he said, my deal came through. I signed my record deal. And I just thought, man, I didn't know we could do that. And immediately I started to believe if Sean could get a record deal, that I could too. And this is the funny thing about belief. A belief is just a thought repeated over time. And I had a new belief. The old belief was it's like impossible to be a recording artist, like a famous recording artist. The new belief was if Sean could do it, I could do it too. I'm going to get a record deal also. Randall, 8 months after that phone call, I was getting offers for my own record deal.
All right, let's freeze frame the story there.
Okay.
So there's another guy that was it Quick Trips that also got a record deal, and you thought, hey, I'm better than that guy as well. And is there jealousy that goes into someone not as good as you getting and achieving something like a record deal, and then say, hey, man, I mean, Big Sean, lots of talent. This other guy, maybe not as much. Is jealousy also a great motivator to work harder and get what you want?
Who's this other guy you're talking about?
Isn't it Right Tracks?
Oh, Right Tracks. Well, they were good, man. Right Tracks was good. You did your research, golly. Right Tracks. They were producers, and they were great. And they did beats for Sean, and they did most of Sean's beats. Every once in a while, I would sneak one in, but they had proximity to him. They were in Detroit, and I had left to North Carolina. And then I heard Kanye was going to sign them as producers. And I just, like, my heart saying, oh, like, man, that should have been me. I should have stayed in Detroit. Just stayed by Sean, like put all my eggs in the Sean basket. So I think there was some competitive, healthy competition in my relationship with Sean and Right Tracks. And then probably some unhealthy jealousy at times as well. But
it's a blessing and a curse at the same time.
Yeah, but man, I whatever it was jealousy or healthy competition. I used it to fuel me. And when I think of Sean, though, mostly I just think of inspiration. I think of him as somebody who changed my life twice. We can talk about the second one later, but that first way wasn't by some advice he gave or you know, it was just him living his life at the highest capacity. No one told him he could get a record deal. Like, he just went and did it. He just went and did it. And that inspired the heck out of me, where I was like, I can do it too. And I'm pretty sure that certainty in your own ability to achieve something is a foundational agreement in your actually doing that thing. And I didn't have that belief in myself until he showed me it was possible. And yeah, I wouldn't be here without him doing that.
How great is it when you have a huge dream, you think it's impossible, and a friend of yours does something, it makes the impossible possible. What a great motivation for everyone listening.
It's a blessing. But here's the thing, Randall, is not everyone has a Big Sean in their life. So they might be listening going, hey, that sounds nice. Where's my like really inspiring friend, right? God didn't give me one of those. Here's the good news. You can change your belief on your own. Like I said, a belief is just a thought repeated over time. We talked earlier about incantation, affirmation. You go out and you run, or you sit in that cold water, or you walk every day, or you take out the journal and you practice that new belief. And you put emotion into it. And you write, I, comma, Mike Posner, whatever your name is, comma, will get a record deal by X date. I, Mike, and you write that thing 15 times every day, and you envision it, you see it, and you feel stupid at first, but after a few days, you start to believe it, and you can change your own beliefs. You don't need a Big Sean to change your beliefs. You can change your own beliefs, and I do that in pretty much every area of my life, because we all have limiting beliefs. Where whether that was something somebody else told us and we believed them, or it's a mainstream belief in the culture that isn't even yours, got passed down to you through social media, through your parents or whatever. They're not even your beliefs, a lot of them. You inherit. We think all our thoughts are our own thoughts. Most of us are not that original. You know, a lot of the things we believe about ourselves and our capabilities, we didn't even make up. And they're just kind of running like malware in the background. And you can change all these things. You know, like I used to believe I was a bad, complicated boyfriend. Yeah, I changed that belief. I'm like the best lover I've ever been. Like, you know, and so you don't need a Big Sean to change your beliefs. All you need is persistence, dedication, discipline, and repetition. And you can tell a new story.
So you get to Duke, you're writing music, and if for all those who haven't seen it, it's really cool. You can go online and watch a lot of Mike's videos at Duke, and it really brings you back when you see someone famous who writes this great song. You figure, okay, you think of the big recording studios that we all see on TV, but there's some great videos of you sitting at your dorm room in your desk, which brought me back to my dorm room. That's really great. So I want to take Cooler Than Me and the mixtape separately. Okay, so you write this song basically to meet girls. And the song was about not needing something to impress girls or meet girls. So tell us about Cooler Than Me, and the inspiration for that song, if I got it right. Mm-hmm. And then what happened that you exploded on campus and everyone knew you?
Well, by the time I wrote Cooler Than Me, you got to understand, I've already been making music now 12 years. Okay, so that's the first thing.
Amateur basis, except for the $700.
Correct. Correct. I'm not a professional. You know, I'm not paying my bills with music, but I've been making music for 12 years. Cooler Than Me was a song I wrote. Basically, it's about feeling left out. You know, it's about going on the cross country team trying to meet the girl and like not working out. That's how I felt my whole life. I was like the odd odd guy out. I never felt like I belonged. I had friends for sure. And I felt special, but I didn't feel like I belonged. And so this was a song that I wrote with Eric Holgis and Jeff Oler in my band at the time. And we just wrote and I recorded it in my dorm room. And I put it online. It was MySpace at the time.
Yeah.
And I didn't think that much of it. Like I said, I've been making music for a long time. Until one day I went to this kid named Xander's room who lived down the hall from me. And Xander was a cool kid. And this was a Saturday afternoon. And I went to his room, which is kind of like hallowed ground because he was so cool. And he said, Mike, we were at a party last night, which I was not at. You know, I was like, because when other kids would go out to the parties, the dorms were quiet and I could record then. So I was not at these parties often. And he said, we were at the party last night and they played your song and everyone knew the words. And then they played it again and everyone sang it again.
I had chills, by the way, as you're telling me the story now.
Yeah. And I'm just like, whoa. You know, that I've been making music 12 years. That never happened before. The only person that knew the words to my songs was me. And I went back from Xander's room and I walked back to my dorm room and I remember getting a call from my mom. You remember I told you at the beginning of the interview, my mom's a Detroit hard rock. She doesn't exaggerate. She doesn't sugarcoat. You don't have to guess how she feels. She'll tell you. She said, Michael, I really love that song, Cooler Than Me. I almost dropped the phone because my mom was always supportive of my music, getting me lessons and drum lessons and drive me to studios past 8 Mile to 6 Mile. And like, we're in the hood, you know, and I'm in the like super supportive. But she never told me she liked anything I made before that day.
Wow.
The next day I get a call from Sean and he says, Mike, that Cooler Than Me song is, he goes, that sounds like it's a hit song. Now, that wasn't even in my realm of possibilities, a hit song, but I just triangulated. I go, sorority girls at Duke, my mother, and Big Sean all love the same thing I made. I think I might be onto something here. And so that was an important checkpoint on my path, because I started to put a lot of time and energy and whatever little capital I had at the time into this project. And I thought I had a tiger by its tail, and turns out I did.
You also made a lot of songs at Duke, one for the Duke basketball team, but that became sort of their anthem. But I want to talk about where the inspiration of where songs come from. Taylor Swift talks about her love life a lot. Talk to us about taking a shower in your mom's bathroom and the Maybelline shampoo that was in her bathroom that inspired another one of your great songs in college.
Yeah, I forgot what this song. This song doesn't make the cut for my shows anymore, but I had a song called Drug Dealer Girl. And it started off, well, you may never be on a Maybelline commercial, but you always let me know when you got some purple. And yeah, I saw the shampoo bottle for Maybelline, or I thought of that. And it was just, I like the turn of phrase, may never be on a Maybelline. It's like kind of cool, Paul Simon-y turn of phrase. Yeah, so inspiration could come a lot of ways. It could come from something like that, or sometimes it just comes out of thin air. Often when I'm asleep, I'll be in a dream where I'm singing a song in the dream. And I'll wake up and go, that song doesn't exist yet. Maybe I should record that thing, or sometimes they just come through. Sometimes I'll be holding the guitar and the song just comes out. Boom. Stream of consciousness, like in the basement. So there's a lot of different ways songs can present themselves, but mostly I don't think we deserve that much credit for them. We can deserve credit for keeping the channel clear to God or inspiration. If that word turns you off, you just call it inspiration. But when you think about who thinks your thoughts, did you decide to pop the thought in your head or the idea, right? Because I'm catching myself. You can decide to think a thought, but can you decide to have a new idea? That I don't know. You can make the space for that to occur in. You can keep a clear mind. You can keep a healthy body. You can meditate so that there's space for that to show up inside of. And I think I can take credit for that. But as far as the thing actually coming in, all the great ones say, and I think they're right, I'm just a channel. I'm just a vehicle for something beautiful to manifest itself.
So you're in school.
Mm-hmm.
Big Sean gets a record deal with Kanye. You're toiling away.
Mm-hmm.
It's finals your sophomore year.
Mm-hmm.
You got a mixtape now that has really made its way all the way around.
Mm-hmm.
You got a 20-page sociology paper that's due.
Yeah.
And you get this crazy call from Big Sean that Jay-Z wants to meet you. Tell us about that whole thing. What were you thinking when you heard that? Like, this is fucking unbelievable.
So it wasn't Sean that called me. It was my manager, Dan. He called and said, Mike, you got to go back to New York. And I had just been in New York taking some meetings with record labels and stuff. And I said, I can't go to New York, man. It's finals week. I go to Duke. It's hard. I'm on a curve against really smart children, or not children, really smart young adults. And he said, you got to go. Jay-Z wants to meet you. I said, don't mess with me, man. Don't tell me that. He goes, no, it's real. Jay-Z wants to meet you. So I didn't tell a soul because I didn't think it would actually happen. I thought I would get there and, he'd get busy. I'd meet, with one of his associates or something. But I got on a plane to New York and I sat and I met with Jay-Z for a few hours. And I played him Cooler Than Me. And he started to nod his head like this. And we just had an amazing meeting and it was inspiring. And I remember I felt really understood by him. I felt really seen by him. He understood the things that inspired me, the music I listened to, and it was just a great meeting. I went back to Duke and I was in the library working on this paper, and I remember I checked my email and there was a record deal offer from Jay-Z. And not from him personally, but from Rock Nation. It was just incredible, man. Like, it felt like a dream come true, and it was.
You walk into the office. It's gorgeous, right? It's huge, and when you step foot in that door, that very second, you could see him on the other side of the room, probably walking towards you, right, to shake your hand. What were you feeling at that exact moment? Jay-Z.
Nervous. I was feeling nervous. Well, he was very disarming and charming. And within a few minutes, I felt really comfortable in the room. And we just had a great meeting.
Rock Nation sends you a record deal on a contract, but you didn't sign with Rock Nation.
Correct.
RCA, you signed with. The interesting thing about that deal is if you stayed in school with Rock Nation deal, you were going to get a bonus. He wanted you to stay in school and graduate?
I think it was just kind of a cute thing they put in the clause. You know, it's like if you complete your term, you get a little bonus. But me and my lawyer were like, just give me the bonus now when I sign it. You know?
So what was the money? How much? What was the first deal? And did you have? It sounds like you had a lawyer and a manager. So were they protecting you? So many times we hear about you're new, you got a record deal, you do anything to get signed, and then you get taken advantage of with a 5-record deal. They keep all the copyrights. Did you know what you were doing? Did you have good advice? And what was the deal?
I don't remember all the ins and outs of the deal, but no, knowing what I know now, obviously I have more leverage now, you know, and I have my own money now. So yeah, the deal like pretty much sucked compared to any deal I would do now, but you're in a different place in life. And so, you know, I can't cry over spilt milk, but yeah, if I had educated myself more, there's a book anyone who's getting in the music business should read called Everything You Need to Know About the Music Business by Donald Passman.
Right.
I think if I read that book, I'd have a few more shekels in my bank account right now.
Right.
Yeah.
We're talking about a $50,000 deal, or we're talking about $250,000? Because either one, you're in college, is a lot of money.
Yeah, I think it was a couple hundred grand. And then I did a publishing deal for significantly more than that. But they're all kind of bad deals because they bet against yourself.
Right.
You know, if you're basically giving up a lot of ownership of your intellectual property in return for these checks up front. So if you're a dud, they're great deals. But if you have a lot of success, they don't shake out. And so, yeah, what I gave up for that couple $100K or, you know, that publishing deal is a lot. You know, it was worth, you know, like tens of millions of dollars. So yeah, it was, in hindsight, not a great deal, but it got me to where I am, to even have the perspective of, you know what I'm saying, to say, hey, it's not a great deal. I do a different one now. So everything happens for a reason, and you know, you live and you learn, and you know, you're in a different position now.
So your mixtape goes viral, and I think in a lot of our success today, we think about marketing and creativity. So talk to us about iTunes, University, and the Posner rule.
Yeah. So I figured out really early, right, that I was really into hip hop. And at the time, if you're a new hip hop artist, you would try to get your music featured on a series of hip hop blogs that were prominent, that people who were into hip hop read. And the other thing you would do is you would give your music away for free, because at that time in the music industry, there was just a lot of pirating going on. Like me and my friends at Duke, we stole the music off of Napster or BitTorrents, that kind of thing. So one thing you didn't do is like really sell music the way I was trying to in high school. So I looked at the data points I had, which were, okay, I can't sell my music because I'm stealing like Kanye and Jay-Z's music, right? So no one's going to pay for my music because no one knows who I am. So that's A. And B is, I'm looking at these data points, which is like Xander's telling me these rich white girls love my music as much as Big Sean does. And these white girls are not going on in these hip hop blogs, you know, and going on the BitTorrents and all this stuff. They're on iTunes. So I have to serve both of these audiences because they both like my music. And what I found was this loophole there was this thing on iTunes called iTunes U, and it was set up for professors to post their lectures. So students could view the lectures, and everything on iTunes U was free. And everything on iTunes U was supposed to be like an educational thing. And I thought, well, you know, my music is really educational, but I'm a student, so maybe could get my music on there. And I found the guy who ran iTunes U for Duke. And this is like one of those God moments. This was a guy named Todd Stabley, and I found his number. I called him, and turns out he's from Southfield, Michigan, just like me. And so he said, "Yeah, man, I'll help you out. I'll put your album on iTunes U, no problem." So now I had my music in a safe place called iTunes that the rich girls could access and would access. And it wasn't just about the rich girls at Duke. It was about that whole demographic across the country. And we just used guerrilla marketing after that. I had friends from high school that were at different colleges: Michigan State, Michigan, Marquette, Notre Dame. I had a friend. Any place I had a friend, I had a Facebook group, and I made it really easy for them. I said, "Look, like there's a link here to the iTunes U thing, and here's how you could send this to all your friends. And if you're open to it, would you change your profile picture to my album cover for the next 2 weeks, the mixtape cover?" And so I had this network and then I asked my friends at Duke, who all had their own set of friends at all these different colleges, to do the same thing, and started getting people that I didn't even know were a couple of degrees of separation to share my mixtape, my free album, with all of their networks on Facebook. And this event, I think, went out to like 30,000 people, which was a lot, you know, for somebody starting from zero. And it just worked, man. It worked. And I got to add one last thing, you know, it's like, it was good. So even people that weren't, you know, part of our networks, when they heard it, they shared it anyways, because it was good. And it took me a long while to make something that good. Like I said, I've been going 12 years already, you know. And so the thing itself was worthy of being shared. You know, the wheels, you can have all your techniques, but if it's not a good product, then none of this stuff works, you know. So it just started to spread, and people liked it, and I got to the point where you're good. I would get booked to play concerts at other schools, and I'd show up at other schools, and everybody knew the words when I got there. So that was pretty cool.
Signed a record deal.
Mm-hmm.
Thought you'd be happy. Weren't happy. Still depressed. And started writing songs for all these amazing people. Bieber, Snoop, Avicii, who you had met in college. He would text you in college.
Mm-hmm.
You guys became good friends. We're going to talk about him a little bit later in the show. Tell us why you weren't happy. Here you've got your dream. You didn't think it was possible. Big Sean gives you a mind shift. Said, He got one, I'm going to get one. You got one. You should have been on top of the world at that point.
Yeah, well, it's, you know, tale as old as time. Happiness is an inside job. And we talked about the habit of depression. And I gave some tools I gave you and your audience some tools as far as how I changed that habit. What wasn't on that list of ways to change the habit of depression was getting a bunch of money and getting famous. Because so often, look, we all do this. We think we're unhappy because something isn't quite right in our external world. So we make our life about changing our external circumstances in such a way that we think we will then be happy if the external circumstances are updated and upgraded and changed in some way based on our preferences. And we make our whole life about making those changes. And it turns out it almost never works. We make the change, and the whole time while we're working, sometimes years, sometimes a lifetime to make the change, we're still in the same habit. We're practicing being depressed while we do it. And so when we get there and the external thing changes, we're still breathing the same way. We're still holding our bodies the same way. We're still thinking the same thoughts. We're still in the same emotional states. And so you might get a momentary hit. Like, it was exciting to get the record deal. It was exciting to see, be on stage and people know the words to the songs. For sure, you get a hit, but it doesn't last very long. So, this tale is old as time and it's cliche, but it's true. Then we go back to our baseline, and my baseline was depressed. So even though I had the record deal now and I had some degree of fame now and I had some degree of monetary success now, I was still thinking the same thoughts. I was still standing the same way. I was still breathing the same way. I was still spending my life in the same emotional states. And until you change those, which is they're all internal, until you change those, like, you're still gonna feel the same way. That's it. It's as simple as that, man.
So you had something that you've called an ice cold period. You got in a Dodge van and drove across the country. Was that just to get away, or what was the mind thought process at that point in time, and how did that help you get out of whatever you were in?
We're bouncing forward in the story, and that's totally fine. But I moved to LA after college, and I bounced around West Hollywood for a long time, writing songs for others, and I had success doing it. And LA has been great to me. It actually worked out. I did become a success.
We're here, this beautiful, amazing home in LA.
I did become a success, and things all turned out well. But I would sometimes feel like I was caught in it. Like I was trapped underneath the weight of my own success. And I think deep down, I inherently knew I am more than just an artist. I'm more than just like a pop singer. And me moving into my van and seeing, hey, can I live alone, like in the mountains for a few months, was just the first step, baby step in me exploring that. And that obviously went a lot further.
Thanks for listening to part 1 of my incredible conversation with the awesome Mike Posner. Be sure to tune in next week for my incredible interview with Mike.